Well, hello, and welcome back. I came across a useful library here that has no documentation, and so I'm just going to show you the process that I go through to make a pull request on an open source project. I'm just going to add some documentation to this. So for a little bit of background, what I was looking for is some way to be able to do glob matching in Golang. So glob matching is what you see here with these double stars. Basically means search in a directory and any directories beneath it recursively. So the standard library in Go supports a single star, which means search in this directory and any directories directly beneath it, but not its grandchild or great-grandchild directories. So the double star support means that if I use a double star, it'll catch everything, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, and so on, all the way to the very end of the directory path structure. So that's why this is important. And this guy has here in the Stack Overflow post instructions on how to use this. And then when I went over to the code, so let me open that up here. So I went over to the code, and there's no documentation there, no link to the Go doc or any of that. And when I look in it, it's pretty small and simple. I mean, 60 lines of code is not a lot of lines of code. So I feel like this is something that is useful because it does one thing and it does it well. It adds double star glob support to basically it supplements the standard library. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this guy's answer here. Actually, before I do that, let me take a step back. I'm going to go back to the README. So I went to his repository. I opened looks like the first issue and said, let's add a README to say what this thing does. Now this guy created this 4 years ago, so maybe he'll look at this, maybe he won't, but whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. So I'm going to go ahead here and click on the code button and use SSH cloning. Then I am going to, what I like to do is I have a GitHub folder, and for everything that I clone, I put the clone in the folder so that the folder structure mirrors the directory structure on GitHub. I'm actually going to create a fork of this. I'm going to fork it to myself. There we go. And instead of, although I copied the clone URL for his, I'm actually going to clone mine. I'll show you what I do here. So I'm going to do a git clone. And I'm in the directory I created that mirrors the directory structure of the URL. So github/yargvad. And then filepathx is the project name. So I'm going to go into filepathx. And then I'm actually going to go back and copy his clone URL. I'm going to rename git remote rename origin. That's the name of the default name for when you clone something, where it comes from. It calls it origin. And I'm going to call that upstream. This is a common convention. And then I'm going to do git remote add origin. And then I'm going to put mine. So what this means is that when I push, I'm going to push to origin, which is me, which I have write access to. And when I pull, well, I'm not going to need to pull, but the clone I did from essentially I could just keep track of it. That's all. Don't worry about it. Okay. Anyway, so I'm just going to add a README here. Actually, first, before I do that, let me do go init go mod init, and then what is this? github.com/yargvad/filepathx. Okay, that's the name of this thing. Then now I'm going to open up my README that I created, and I'm just going to paste in his answer from Stack Overflow, which I had over here. I had clicked the edit button. If we go back here, I'd click the edit button to be able to get to the markdown there. And I'm just going to paste this all in. I'm actually going to do escape : set paste. Probably can't see that. Let me pull this up a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and I just pasted the whole thing in, and I'm going to do a little bit of formatting here. Put this in modern markdown. All right, written small, let's see. This is filepathx is its name. Let's call it that. A small extension library. Okay, small file path extension library that supports double star globbing. That's good. With this directory structure, you can use this glob to match everything in the A directory that contains a dot like so. This is Go code. So I'm just going to reformat that, which outputs Okay, so this gives a usage example. Let's go here. Let's say usage. So given this directory structure, you can use this glob pattern to match, and then he gives an example. Let's go ahead and put the command to do the installing of this, which would be go git, and then the git URL. Oops, get rid of the HTTPS that got copied. And actually, let's link to the documentation as well. So for Go, the documentation is going to be pkg.go.dev, and then we just put a slash and then paste in, whoops, got to remove the HTTPS again, paste in the URL of the git clone URL. It doesn't have to be GitHub, it can be anything. Okay, so, doc not displayed due to license restrictions. So there's no license on this, so we probably should add a license to it as well. All right, that's good to know. I'm going to go ahead and put this in there anyway. We'll go ahead and add a license file as well. Okay, so we've got a description for it. We've got a link to the documentation. Actually, I'll put that under its own heading. We got an example of how to install it. We've got an example of how to use it. Actually, I'm going to change this around a little bit. I'm going to call this usage example. And matches. Okay, there's one thing I don't really like about this library. I might PR later for like a V2, is this should, in my opinion, allow you to operate on the file path as it walks rather than having to store everything in memory, because if you've got thousands of files and folders, that's not going to work very well. So I'll check that out later. Okay. So here's a simple usage. All right, we don't need that anymore. Let's move this back up to the top here. Just trying to make the documentation make sense, or not necessarily make sense, but put the most important parts first. Like, I want to see that there's documentation. I want to know what it does. I want to see that there's documentation. I want to see how to use it. I might not do a screenshot for this, but I probably should, but I'm just going to skip that part. I am kind of interested to just take the example here and put it under example and actually run it myself and see, whoops, if it runs. So go run example star.go, and let's check out, well, let's, oops. There we go. Well, that didn't work. What did I do wrong here? Let's, I'm actually going to update his example code. Let's say we do os.args. If the length of the args, we want to, okay, I'm not, live coding is hard. So what I'm doing here is I am going to replace this hard-coded value with the pattern. That's a good name for it. We're going to replace the pattern, make it a variable that gets passed in as an argument. So if the length of the args, oops, is not equal to 1, then we'll just exit with an error and put a message out to standard error about the usage. Let's see how this works out. So that makes sense. Is it not OS? Cannot call a non-function. Oh, okay. So we don't need a function there. And this actually should be 2 because it's getting called itself. So we could say pattern is not the 0th argument, but the first argument, because the 0th argument is itself. There we go. That looks good. All right, let me copy that for later. All right, so then we want to GitHub no. Oh, I gotta put the double dash because I'm using go run. I don't want it to interpret this. The commands. So if I use go run and I give it multiple arguments, Go run is going to interpret them, but if I put the double dash, it won't interpret them. So that's what I was doing that for. Okay, what else was I trying to do here? I should put a return there just to be more explicit. And I also should put a slash in there. So if the length of args is not equal to 2, but the length of args was equal to 2, wasn't it? Let's see. Yeah. That should be good. Okay. How many args are there then? Format.println less.args. I'm wondering if it's counting. What are the args then? I wonder if it's counting this dash dash as part of the args. We shall see. We shall see. Interesting. So yeah, it's counting the dash dash. So that's not actually going to work. I'm going to have to build it. Okay, let's try this then. No. I don't want to call that. I'm going to keep an example. And I'm going to make a directory under example called find, and I'm going to move example.go to example find.go. Oh, not under source control yet. That's okay. I'll just do a regular move and rather than a git move. Now I will build my example. Okay, and then I should have, that here. Okay, so now I should be able to do GitHub yard like this, and I'll put that part in single quotes to escape it. Haha! All right, looks like it works quite well. Cool beans, cool beans. So now I'm confident that the example does in fact work. I'm going to go ahead and copy the text of that example back into the README. Sure, we'll leave that in there. All right, so now I know that the code in the README works. That's true. So given this directory structure, this will be the output. And then we can't do it like that. I'll have to do wait, did that work? Go build, okay. Whoops, not what I wanted. Let me go back. Okay, go build example find star.go, and then we can do find what is it complaining about? Nothing. No prettier executable installation found. All right, let's do prettier is a code formatter. I actually don't need it for this, but for some reason, oh, it's because it's the README. So it does want to run prettier on the README. That makes sense. All right. So this looks good to me. Okay, I'm going to say we've got a good README there. All right, so we've got a README. We've got the example code. We do want a gitignore. I want to ignore our find directory. We run go to mod tidy. There's no dependencies, so that doesn't do anything for us. Double check that our module name matches the repository name. Good. Let's add our gitignore here, and then we need a license file. So I'm just going to propose a license. Let's see. Recommended Go licenses. We want to know the license that's most common with Go code. Yeah, that doesn't tell me much. 87% of Go code is licensed under a permissive license. MIT. Okay, let's just go with MIT because that's what most people are going with. So, MIT license. And we'll just go ahead and copy this. And let's see what year this project was made in. 2016. Okay, so let's say copyright 2016, the filepathx authors. And that'll include me. That looks good. Add license. So the reason we're adding a license is so that this can be displayed on go.package.dev or package.go.dev, the documentation site. All right, with that, I think we're good to go. We've got examples. We've got the example code. I've tested the example code. We added a license. We put in links to relevant things. And there we go. So we're going to add the README license, go.mod, and the Stack Overflow example. Good. Now when I push this, if we look at git remote, so we see we've got origin and upstream, and origin is Yargvad, the original author, and then upstream is me. So we're actually going to do git, wait, that's not what I meant to do. That's wrong. Git remote rename origin upstream 2. Git remote rename upstream origin. Git remote rename upstream 2 upstream. There we go. Now let's see if these look right. Okay, so I've got, I'm the origin of myself. That's what I need to push to. So git push -u origin master. And the -u means associate the branch that's given to the remote that's given. So it means associate master to origin. Because I mixed that up, I added the -u so that make sure that it's in sync. All right. And now, if we go back here, I think we'll see a pull request pop up. new. That's all right. We'll just go, let me close out all this stuff here. All right, and let me go to my fork. Oh, did I not commit? Git log. Huh. Everything up to date. I don't believe you. But let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. Binary file. We don't want to add a binary file. I need to go back and fix that. So we don't want to, let's see, git log. You can't see it, but I just selected that commit name. So I'm going to reset back to that commit that was in the git log. Well, we don't see it now. It was this one right here. So I basically undid my commit. And then I'm going to remove from example the example there, binary. And then that binary shouldn't be a problem. So if I add everything again and look at the status, I'm kind of confused that it doesn't add. Let's see, this is this also matches the directory name, so that's a problem. Not really sure what to do about that. Let's see if that fixes it. Indeed. Okay, untracked files. So my gitignore is not quite working the way that I want it to. I can do this. I can be more explicit about it and give it the exact path to the thing I don't want it to add. There we go. And then I'm just going to hit up a bunch of times until I find my commit. There we go. And now I have to push force. And because I'm going to force, I'm going to make sure I'm going to the branch that I intend to go to, which is my origin and my master. Now, normally I'd create a branch name that's something not master, like, I don't know, add docs or something. But in this case, I did not. All right. So now, does my commit look good? We added a license, a gitignore, README, some example code, and the go.mod. Excellent. Add README based on original SO post. Add license so that package.go.dev knows it's allowed to mirror the docs. Not mirror. Okay, so these are all the things that we added. I think this is good. So let's create that pull request. Oh, also, We need to let them know how to tag. I don't know if this dude even writes in Go anymore, and I want to make it easy as possible. So what I'm going to do is give the exact commands of how to tag this as v1.1. Oh, no, we don't need Go code here. All right, so what he's going to need to do is run git tag. I think this is it. Yeah, I think so. Cool. So we'll see what happens. But that, and I didn't have to do as much as I did if I just copied the README over. And for the purposes of this video, that's probably what I should have done, is just copy the README over, copied a license, added the link to the Go doc, copy the original code exactly as is, or not even bother with that. It doesn't really need the examples folder. But this is, this is me actually doing it for real. So sorry I didn't speak everything out loud the way that might have been best for the recorded example. But, this is me actually making a contribution because I feel like this guy's solution is a better solution than what's commonly out there when you search for this on Google. If you do Golang glob, it comes up with the file path module. It comes up with this, which is this one here, which is just string matching. It's down here. His code is just linked to in a post. So there's no, he's got the best solution, but it's not actually showing up in the search results in a way that it's obvious to someone how to use it and what to do, and that it's available there. So this other one, this is just a string match globbing. It just tells you if something matches a glob or not, which I suppose is good enough because you can just go over a directory and then see if the glob matches. But the problem is you have to know where to start. And that can be difficult because your path could have like a ... in it to not recurse, but to go up. It could have more than one ... in it to look at parent paths, or it could begin with a slash or whatever. I mean, usually you're using globs from the current directory, for which this would work perfectly fine. But if you wanted to specify a directory that's not the current directory, this doesn't work quite as well. And it's also re-implementing something that already exists in the standard library. So I like this solution better. Or, whoops, sorry. The Yargvad solution. I like it better. And then let me see what this is. Because this is the Go, people are saying, hey, it'd be great if Go itself had glob support. Let's see. I think this is okay to implement. Yes, I agree. Issues mentioned. Okay. So basically the reason they didn't include it in core is they're saying, well, there's edge cases, and we'd rather have something work perfectly correctly than to work most of the time. So either we add a perfect solution or we don't add a solution when it comes to the standard library. Things that are partial solutions, anybody can come up with those. That's kind of the way I'm reading that. Okay, so that makes sense. Oh, wait, but it's been reopened. Okay, I'm kind of curious to see why it was reopened. We really need really need support for this. let's see. I'm going to add. I'm going to add a link to the Stack Overflow on this one, just so other people know. Where was that at? Yeah, right here. Let's see if anybody else has commented on this yet. Nope. Nobody else has mentioned it yet. Okay. So what I'm saying here, stopgap workaround, I'm just saying, for people that are looking for just a solution to this problem, not worrying about it being in the standard library, here's a solution that you can look to. And 60 LOC is lines of code. So I'm saying, this is a small, lightweight solution, good start for those willing to use something outside the standard library. So with a little luck, it would have been nicer, of course, to link to this guy's repository directly, but there's no README or anything, so it wouldn't be very helpful to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and mention this. Created PR number 2. Let's see, also suggested as a stopgap. Okay, cool. Now, and again, this is all stuff, I'm not just doing this for the video. I would have done this anyway. It probably would have taken me about the same amount of time to record it or not. But I don't know. I'm just hoping that's useful to kind of, see someone work and interact. And, maybe I get lucky. It could be that this, ends up with nothing, in which case I might look at his code and then write my own, because he doesn't have a license here. But the code is so generic that, and there are a couple of modifications I would make. Like I said, I'd make it so that the callback, there's a callback function while this is walking for things that it matches, so that it's not storing stuff up in memory. And in that case, I'd go back to these and I'd update. If I don't hear back from this guy in a week or something, and I'm using this because it's something that I need. Well, actually, it's something that a friend of mine needs. But anyway, I might go back to this kind of quasi-copy, rewrite. Might take me an hour or so. Could take me 2. It looks pretty simple, though. It looks pretty simple, so I don't think it'd take me too long. I just kind of use this as a model, rewrite it, and then use what I created. The documentation on Stack Overflow is copyrighted in such a way, if you look down here at the bottom, I think it is. Was there anything about? There we go. No. Well, anyway, there's a place where it tells you that the documentation on Stack Overflow is licensed in such a way that anything that you post becomes publicly available as long as people link back to the post. So that is a requirement of it. It's copyright with attribution. So anyway, I could, because the documentation is posted in the public domain, I could basically take what I wrote, copy it, link to the Stack Overflow article, make my own version of this code so that it's not a direct copy and I'm not bound by any license ambiguities. And then, just host it myself. But you know, my hope is that this guy sees it, is still interested in it, and you know, wants to improve this and merges my PR. But you know, if not, then the work that I did, I ended up doing for myself. And so whatever, it's all right. Okay, well, with that, I'm done. I'm done with this problem for now. So I hope you found that useful. I hope that, and if you did, give it a thumbs up and consider going to beyondcodecamp.com, where I am creating a video course that's shorter, scripted tutorials, not this, you know, such a long format exploratory, but you know, we've gone through the processes already and I'm kind of honing it in. If you're interested in something like that, go there. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more stuff like this. I don't do these live coding sessions too often, but you know, if you're interested in developing, I post stuff here and there. So with that, good night.